Hey, welcome back. So today I am making lima beans. Now, how do most people make lima beans? I don't know. If this is even going to be interesting or helpful, don't know that either, but I just figured I'd show y'all how I do them. I've got them already in here. They're boiling. I just put water and I filled it all the way up to the top. I'm gonna let them boil for like 10 minutes and then I'm gonna take them off and dump them. So that they can, I'm gonna take them off and dump them and then refill the water back up because I didn't rinse them or anything. You're supposed to rinse your beans and pick through them. I did pick through them when I dumped them in there and got them started, but I didn't rinse them or anything like that. So I'm just gonna dump the basically you're washing them. So I'm gonna dump that water and then refill it. But in the meantime, while I let that kind of boil, I am going to, you're supposed to put like a ham hock in there. I don't have any type of ham bone or anything like that, so I'm going to cut up some bacon, if y'all can see that. And this is the bacon I bought. I can't find a really good brand that I just can stick with, so this is what I bought this time around. And I'm gonna use my favorite knife to cut it up. I'm gonna cut them in little like squares or rectangles, and then I'm gonna stick them in there. This is basically the same thing I do when I cook sausage and red beans and rice. I just cut the sausage up. Well, I fry the sausage first. In this case, the bacon, I'm not going to fry it or cook it down in any shape or form. I'm just gonna cut it up and then stick it in there. So let me try to put y'all up where y'all can see what I'm doing. Okay, I had to pause it and put y'all up there, but this is extremely thin bacon. So I'm gonna take a little more. It's gonna look like more, but alright. So I don't even know if y'all can tell what I'm doing. Okay, it just foamed up and bubbled over, but it's all good. So this is like the little strips that I'm cutting the bacon into. That's what it looks like. You can do as big of strips of bacon. You can put all of like you can put the bacon in there whole if you want. That doesn't really matter. That really comes down to a preference of when you're eating beans and you think about eating beans, how big of bites do you want to take? Like when you have the beans are this big, would you want a big chunk of ham this big or little bits of ham? Would you want it hard? Would you want them soft? I like my texture in this particular dish to be all the same. So me personally, I would not fry my bacon and then stick it in there. That's just me. I'm sure there's people that do that. But now that I have the bacon, I'm not even gonna lie, let's see. This is probably 1.5 to 2 cups of bacon if you really wanted to measure. It looks like I took like 5 strips of bacon, but they were thin cut, so keep that in mind too. But again, that's a preference. If you want to put I mean, a half a pound of bacon in there, you're more than welcome to. It doesn't matter. It just depends on what you like when you eat it, your flavor, the texture, just what you decide, what you want. Me personally, these strips of the thicker section, I'm gonna cut these in half this way, so that I have a half like this, so you have little squares. I know that the bacon will shrink just a bit, being that when it cooks. But me personally, I don't like my bacon in lima beans to be bigger than the beans. But I wouldn't want tiny itty bitty like bacon bits in there either, so just a happy medium somewhere in between. Now, let's see, I think y'all can see the stove from there. I'm going to grab the beans, grab a colander, a strainer, and dump them and then refill the beans. It's in the dishwasher, I'm gonna have to grab it and rinse it out. Okay, let's see, I can move it all here, maybe y'all can see me. Dishwasher's clean. Sorry, that was really loud. Alright. So I'm going to show y'all what this water looks like. Even though y'all may be able to see it when I dumped it, but see how kind of yellow and yucky it is. I know when you cook it down it's going to be like a gravy, so it's going to be like that off-white, the same color as the lima beans. But again, I didn't rinse mine like you're supposed to. You're supposed to rinse through and sift through your beans, because if you have some that are broken or have brown or black like spots on them, that's probably mold from sitting and they got moisture in them or something, who knows, or even pesticide could have done something to it. Who knows? So I just don't take the chance. And on the package that you buy, the camera's gonna fall. Go ahead. On the package that you buy, it actually tells you how to rinse and prepare them. One just fell out of here. Okay. This is the brand that I buy, the Camellia. This is the brand that my mama, her mama, my papa's mama, everybody uses. This is the brand that, I don't know if it's everywhere. I know when I was in Florida, they did not carry this brand. So I don't know if it's more of a southern thing, or, I know that's contradicting. Florida is a southern state, but not considering I'm from South Mississippi. We don't consider Florida, that's a tropical state. That's not a southern state. Please don't let me offend anybody. That's just kind of what we feel, or what our opinion is, which is irrelevant, just an opinion. But this is 1 whole pound, and I might have lied to you. Let me see. Yeah, rinse and sort beans in a large pot, add beans and water, bring to a boil for 10 minutes, and then it tells you to chop up onion, parsley, celery, garlic, saute it down, add to, etc., etc. Now this is what we call butter beans. Now they put large lima on the pack, but these are pretty big, if y'all can't tell. I know I'm a pretty small person, but pretty big bean. Well, I might have fibbed. They didn't really tell you, they just told you to sort through. But in the previous packs I've bought before, and another brand, they tell you to rinse it. Some people tell you to soak it overnight, soak your beans and let them swell and then cook them. Supposedly that helps with digestion, which is why they say people that eat beans get the toots. That's part of it. I don't know. not an expert in it, but that's just what we've always joked around or been told. So I'm filling the beans back up, if y'all can hear me. And I'm gonna fill it up to where it's probably an inch and a half, 2 inches above. I'll set you up here and y'all can see it, stick it back on the stove. Now, me personally, I put the beans on high and I bring them to a boil and I let them boil to death, really. And then once they, like right now, I just stuck them back on. So once this gets back up to a really good boil, I'm gonna stick the bacon in there and let that give it a good flavor. But in the meantime, I'll show y'all the seasonings that I'm probably gonna put in there. I will cut up an onion, but I'm gonna put pepper, salt. Let me see. I'll put some garlic powder because I don't have garlic cloves. All I have is like chopped garlic, minced or whatever in the fridge, and it's just too strong. I'd rather not have my beans taste like garlic. I've got parsley. I'm gonna put some of that in there. And I don't have celery, but I do have this. Now, being that this is a salt and I'm gonna put salt in it, I'm not gonna put a whole lot of this, just a little bit for flavoring. I don't want to overdo and you have too much salt in there. Normally I would put onion powder, or this is dried chopped onion. I would normally put both of these in here, but since I'm gonna chop an onion, a fresh one, and stick it in there, I'm gonna put those aside. I do use Tony's Creole seasoning, so I'm gonna stick some of that in there. And I know what you're thinking, being like somebody who may only use a couple of ingredients every time they cook. You might be thinking that this is like, ooh, she's putting a lot of stuff in there. That might be really just overwhelming. I don't put a lot of portions of each. I do for flavor. So, like this Tony's, for instance, I'm not going to put like a whole tablespoon of Tony's, probably a teaspoon of this. Just enough to give it some flavor. But parsley, to me, you can't really put enough of that. That's not something that's really strong. That's just kind of, I know a lot of times it's for garnish, like for looks. But you do taste it just a little, but that just gives it a little something in there. To me, the two main ingredients in this is pepper and salt. That's just me. Those two things, if you didn't even have any of this other stuff, you could still make it. Because your bacon's going to give off a good flavor, or your ham or your ham bone. I know like the very southern way to do this, like I said, I don't personally have it here, and I've never actually done it, but my mama, Nathan's Mimi, everybody from the south, that's pretty much how they do it. They buy a ham bone, they stick it in a big pot, boil it for however many, I think it takes like an hour or two, I'm not really sure, don't mark my word on how long it takes, but I know you have to do that first because it does take a little bit longer. They boil the ham bone and your whole house like stinks because of the ham, and then they take the ham bone out. You can actually cut off meat off of that, make sandwiches or whatever, but they use the water and the meat from that. They use that in this recipe. Me, like I said, I'm just gonna use bacon. It's ham, it's from a pig, same flavors, it's just actually a lot easier and a lot cheaper, because a ham bone, I don't know particularly where y'all live, and even if your grocery stores would have something like that, but for us, where we live, close to Memphis, it just a little bit pricier, and probably too with the economy like it is, that might have something to do with it. I don't but this is taking a minute. It looks like it's getting a little churning. So I'm gonna take this bacon and I'm gonna stick it in there. I guess I can show y'all what I'm doing. So I'm just gonna grab handfuls of it. And I separate each one to stick it in there. I'm sure once it boils, it won't matter. They'll probably come apart, but this is really hard with one hand. Let's see. I don't have anywhere to stick y'all that y'all can like see in the pot. Okay, maybe y'all can just watch me do it. Watch me put it in there. So I'm just separating, like I said, each slice. This recipe is not word for word like how my momo cooks it. And if she watches this, she might be disappointed because it's not exactly. Because I promise you it don't taste the same as, you know, momo's. But I do have her recipe on potato salad that I'm going to show y'all because y'all are going to love it. I've got the potatoes here actually. But I've got the potatoes here to make it. But to me, growing up, I thought when you heard potato salad, I thought it was just, you know, you don't know any better when you're younger. So I thought potato salad was, if I was at somebody else's house, it was going to be just like Mama's. Yeah, I grew up to learn that there's like a million different ways. There's store-bought potato salad, there's potato salad with like mustard in it, or potato salad with vinegar in it, or I don't know, crazy things. But my mama's way of making it, to me, is the best potato salad I've ever tried. And that's not me just being partial. Obviously, she's part of my family, but that's just my taste buds, really, I promise. Because if y'all do it and y'all copy me, I'm gonna make it soon. Now, when I'm even gonna post this, I don't know. So when to tell y'all to look for it, just know it's coming. And I think I tried to make a playlist on here of just cooking recipes. So if y'all just wanted to skip to the playlist, I can try to add it to that. I'm still trying to learn how to maneuver on YouTube, like as far as posting stuff. So don't take my word on that, but I will try my best to put it in the baking playlist. Now, to me, how we've always done it was lima beans and beets. If you have a can of pickled beets, oh my goodness. I think my mama actually, she used to buy, again, if she's watching this, I don't want to butcher her recipe, but if I'm not mistaken, I think she buys just like regular sliced beets, and then she pickles them herself. She puts vinegar and purple onion in it and mixes it up and lets it sit at room temperature, and oh my wow, it's so good. I'll just throw this in. I still have more bacon to add too. And I guess I should talk y'all through this. I added the bacon in here. What stage you're supposed to add the bacon, like if the beans are more cooked or like I just did at the beginning, I don't know. Like I said, this is just what I do. I add the bacon at the beginning, I've also forgotten to add the bacon at the beginning and added it later on, and it was just as good. So I think that just depends on the person, or you try it both ways and figure out what's better for you. But to me, I think it all tastes the same. So, but when you do add the bacon in here, it does tend to float at the top. Don't panic, don't freak out. It'll boil down and it'll eventually sink. Trying to think of anything else y'all need to know. If y'all don't have any fresh onion powder and garlic powder when you're doing beans, even red beans and rice, that's my personal 2 favorite ingredients. That's what I use on almost everything, is onion powder and bacon powder. But like I said, I do have onion. I'm gonna go chop that up and then add it in. I may turn y'all off. Well, that's what I'll have to do, because I'll run out of time if I'm not about to run out of time already. But I'm gonna go ahead and chop the onion, and I'll turn y'all on and show you. Well, I guess I can do it now, and then I'll turn y'all off. I'll show y'all. I'll keep y'all on. I'm all over the place. I'll keep y'all on. Chop the onion, and then I will show you how I chop it. Now you can use yellow or white onion. I have white onion. White onion tends for me to be stronger, like a very strong onion. And then your yellow onion's a little bit sweeter. But I use it so much I've got some in here already. I'm just gonna use, so this is an onion cut in half. I'm gonna cut it, so if that was like the stem, I cut it in half that way. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it in half again. And I'm gonna use, I didn't do it evenly, so I'm gonna use the bigger portion. Because I'm using that for flavor, that's not necessarily, okay. So I'm gonna cut it long ways, like this. So y'all can see that, there's the layers right there. And then I'm gonna cut this way, and you'll have tiny little, like, squares or rectangles. And I'm gonna do the whole onion like that. I only have like 2 minutes, or 2 seconds really. But I'm gonna do the whole onion like this, just in tiny itty bitty little squares. And then I'm gonna add to, and it will cook down, and they should be translucent by the time your beans are done. Because these beans, for me personally, even keeping them on high, takes like 2 or 3 hours. So it all depends on your stove top and how hot it gets to. That's a big factor in how long your beans are going to take. But for me, I don't really know an exact time. This is me just kind of guesstimating from past experience. But I do know that when I cook beans, you take a bean out and you mash it. You can take it completely out, or you can just use your spoon and mash it against the side of like the pot you're boiling in. And if the bean completely just mushes, it's done. If it's kind of mushy but a little hard on, and grab more than one bean, because some beans will be done quicker than others. But yeah, you can use a fork, you can use a spoon, you can use whatever, and just mash it. And if it completely mushes, you're done. If not, make sure you check more than one bean, and then it'll basically tell you whether you need to cook it longer. But also you may have to end up adding water to it, because when you boil it, it probably will boil down a lot more than you expect, especially if you cook it on high like me, which I know a lot of times people put it on low and then they put the lid on and then let it cook from there, and they let it simmer, and that cooks, and I think that takes a little bit longer. but this is just what I do, how I do it. Probably wrong. I don't know. There might not be a wrong or right, but this is how I do it. But yeah, you may have to add water. I just grab a little measuring cup. You can just grab any cup and just fill it back up. But when your beans get to where they're almost done, be very careful. I would turn it back down off of high to like really low, because you don't want your water to cook out. Because if you add more water, by the time your beans are done, you may end up burning them just due to the fact that you're overcooking them, if that makes any sense. So you don't want to add water at the end, because then you'll have this watery soup versus a good like gravy. And I'll show you all at the end when I'm kind of talking about. You want it to be a very just like, I don't know how to explain it, but it'll look like gravy is the only way I can personally explain it. It'll be thick. You want your water in there to be thick. So if you add water at the very end, it'll end up being soupy and nasty, and then you'll have to extra cook it for even longer, and then your beans are kind of like taste fun. I don't know. I've done that before, is what I'm telling y'all. Y'all don't want that to happen. So that's a good tip. Keep that in mind. I know we're still at the beginning stages of cooking it. I haven't even added in my seasoning yet, or the onion, but I think I may have time. I think it told me I had 8 minutes, but if I have time, I'm gonna take y'all with me. I'm gonna add this in, and I'm gonna add my seasons, and I'll show y'all. I normally don't add them till a little bit later, but being the camera's on, I'll do it now. But here's my chopped onion. Now I'm rolling it around in my hands because a lot of the layers were stuck together. And then I'm just gonna mix it in. And you see how the bacon, everything's kind of floating. Eventually, once your beans kind of get done and that stops being so watery and it turns into gravy, everything will mix in together really nice. Try to grab the rest of this. A tip, I only have one hand, but if you pick your knife up and you scoop like that, it will get everything off your chopping board. If you have a big one like this that you can't just pick up and bring over here. That's a little key trick. Nathan actually taught me that. I didn't even realize. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my pepper. Okay, y'all saw that. Now, the measurement for that, I don't know. I'm just gonna guesstimate and say like a tablespoon. There's my salt. Now I'm gonna do parsley. I gotta open it, I'm sorry. Alright, there's my parsley. Alright, can y'all see that? Now I'm gonna do, ooh, I keep shaking y'all. I'm sorry, hang on. Maybe next time I cook, I'm gonna pre-open everything beforehand so you don't get a headache or motion sickness trying to watch this. Okay. I told y'all I did garlic powder. Here it is. Alright. This stuff, you can always add to later. Do not put too much of anything in because you can't take it back out. Here's celery salt. I'm gonna just do this lightly. Alright. That was probably a teaspoon of celery salt-ish, give or take. Now I'm gonna do Creole seasoning. That's hard to come out if y'all can't tell, especially with that, whatever I'm trying to call that, the evaporation. If that gets in there, it kind of gets it a little harder to get out. But so that's all of my seasonings. If y'all need to take a picture, screenshot this or whatever y'all can. But this is what I've used. And now I'm gonna stir it all together. But you see how this is kind of getting that gravy color to it? And when I say gravy, I'm not talking about brown gravy. And if y'all have had beans before, you know what I'm kind of talking about. But it smells so good. Okay, so the two things that aren't gonna be in that little screenshot are your onion, which I used white onion. I used 1/4 of a white onion. So if y'all need a reference to that. And this is the size of the onion. I know they have like small, large. I know it's not a small, I believe it's a medium size. There it is right there with my hand. But yeah. Well, I guess I said I used a white onion. Is that really a yellow? I don't really know. Anyways, that's what I use. That's the onions. And here's my potatoes for the potato salad. But all right, so I'll be back to show y'all what this looks like. Okay, so here we are. I've already put on a little pot of rice, and that is boiling. So I've got that going, and this is what our beans look like. If y'all can see that, let's see. So that bacon I put in there is cooked down like ham. This water has turned into a gravy. Let's see, I'll get a better spoon. That's what the gravy is looking like. So, I just wanted to come on here and show y'all what this is kind of looking like right now. I'll tell y'all really fast. So, I got to watching Netflix or Hulu on the TV and wasn't paying attention, and all the water boiled out and the bottom layer of beans burned. So I obviously didn't video that, but I had to take the top layer of beans and just let it kind of pour out by itself. And I poured it out into a bowl, and then I scraped all the beans off the bottom, washed the pot, put the good beans back in, and they taste right. Like, you don't taste anything burnt, thank goodness. But I saved them, but instead of having a pound, we probably had like a half pound of beans left, which is okay. We were gonna have leftovers, but we might not have leftovers now. But I swear to y'all, every single time I cook beans, this happens. I don't know, it doesn't matter if it's lime beans or red beans or, actually I take that back. Red beans and rice, I don't typically burn. I have, but I don't typically. It's just these lima beans, man. I don't know. I just can't cook them. I don't know. I cook them and they're good. It tastes great, but almost 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna burn them or almost burn them. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll stop burning beans, but that's the only thing that I can't like cook and be very good at is beans. Anyway, so I was just gonna give y'all an update on that. And rice, by the way, I really need a rice cooker. I really don't even know how to cook rice. I use the 5-minute rice, and y'all see it right here. I just put the same amount of water and rice in the thing, and I don't use measuring cups. I just pour it in there. There's a measuring cup right there, but that's for adding water to the beans earlier. But anyway, so I don't know. I just cook them and cook the rice until they're not hard anymore, which is right now. And then I just turn it off and slide it over off of the hot eye, and I let it sit. That's probably plenty, probably a little too much actually, of rice for just me and Nathan, but at least we have it. So that's there, that's done. I just let it sit, and it'll probably kind of dry out and get a little hard before he gets home, because he won't be home for another hour and a half. But that's okay. What I do to heat it back up, I just add just a little bit of water to get the moisture back in, and then I just heat it back up, either on the stove or in the microwave, either way. But that's what I do to heat that back up. Another thing about cooking beans, if y'all have never done it before, is stirring. That's how I burned them earlier, because I got in there and I thought they were fine. I thought there was enough water in here because I had it on high. So it was constantly boiling, so it was constantly coming off the bottom, and I thought it was fine, but when I ran out of water, it kind of got stagnant, and I burned that thin bottom layer. But beans, you have to stir, and you have to make sure you're constantly stirring. I would say every 5 to 10 minutes, depending on where your beans are at. But like in this stage, right now, every 5 minutes, easy every 5 minutes. You see how it's turned all into, this is the gravy I kept talking about and referring to. See how it's kind of thick? It's not watery. I've got it on 5. So I've got it on medium. But I had it on high this whole time, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I started this, y'all see the time, I think I started this around like 3:30, so I think it's been like 3 hours, give or take, of cooking these. Like I said, I told y'all, I really didn't know how long it takes to cook beans. I just never pay attention. I just always get in here and cook them. But I'll also, since I'm already on here, I'll go ahead and show y'all. I'm going to turn this off, or I'm going to turn it on low, all the way on low. There we go. I'm going to grab, this is the plate I used to put the beans on earlier. But I'm going to show y'all what I was talking about when I said take some of the beans out. You can either smash them up against the side, but this little spoon is plastic and it's so flimsy. So I'm just gonna take it out, and I'll show y'all. Y'all take one, and if you can mash it, see how that just mashed? See, that whole thing just mashed. All right, I just picked one up a second ago and it didn't do it. Yeah, that one's done. See how that one, my spoon kind of fell off of it? And if you don't know, you can also let it cool down and just bite into it. Either way, I just usually just take the spoon. It needs to cook just a little bit longer because the center right there is just a little bit hard. I mean, it's edible, but it's not to my liking. See how it's kind of sticking to the bottom? This right now, I need to stir like every minute or so, at least, to keep it from burning. But that's where I'm at. That's where the beans are. I guess I'll tune back in and I'll just show y'all. I'll make a plate with rice and I'll just show y'all what they end up looking like, and then I'll probably take a bite and tell y'all if they taste good or not. But I've already had a bite earlier and it was pretty good. But I hope y'all enjoyed this, but I'll see y'all in a second.